Hi, welcome back to the Johnson Firm's YouTube page. My name is Erin Abrams, and I'm joined today with Becky Hunter.
Hello.
And for today's topic, we're going to be talking to you guys about some of the pitfalls and concerns we have with artificial intelligence, specifically in family law, but generally most of these things we're saying can apply to the legal field as a whole. So in dealing with AI, I know, I'm the first to Google, and I'm sure all my doctor friends hate me for this, but I like to self-diagnose myself. So I like to see what we're working with before I go in and talk to a doctor. And I imagine, or I experience, a lot of people are the same way before coming in and talking to a lawyer, which is totally understandable. But sometimes with AI, we see some people getting this feeling of overly self-sufficiency, which really may not be accurate, right? So let's talk about some of those concerns. At the end of the day, AI is not human, right?
Right.
Why does that matter in family law?
It matters so much. Family law is a really people-specific area of law. You're dealing with custody and visitation. That has a lot to do with personalities and habits and history of people's actions. And so if you do a Google or AI search about your specific question, it probably is not going to give an accurate response because your case is dependent on your people. And so that's why it's important to talk to a person who is knowledgeable in family law in order to get that response.
Yeah, and particularly too, making sure there's this nuance of that human element there, right? ChatGPT might be able to give me a really, really good understanding based on black letter law, what the law says. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be able to impute this amount of human empathy that attorneys, judges, the courts, the legislature, everyone's kind of aware of in this specific topic, being family law. So I think absolutely to your point, that human element is something that we cannot discredit in family law, especially in family law. We can't discredit that. And so, would you agree with the summary that AI cannot replace an actual lawyer?
It really can't. It'd be impossible. An actual lawyer is going to know what the judge in your jurisdiction or the judges in your jurisdiction is going to handle a case like yours. The judges have different personalities. We have great judges in this area, but they apply the law a little bit differently because of their personalities. And so having a lawyer that has experience in those courtrooms with those judges is invaluable. And it's a tool that it'd be impossible for AI to provide.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned something really astute, specifically the area of law in the state, in the area you're in. So not only do we have federal law, not only do we have statewide laws, which in and of itself, Louisiana is the only state that practices under a civil law regime versus common law. So there's a difference that AI might not be able to kind of clock for you in any response they give you. But also local rules are different, right?
That's right.
Had you ever had a positive experience with any kind of AI tool that's as up on these local rules as a practitioner in the area?
Absolutely not. Local rules change more often than state law does also. And so a local rule, AI might think if AI even knows about the local rule, right? It's a lot of times these local rules are supposed to be published. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes the courts are trying out something new for their area before they make it a new local rule. And so it'd be impossible for AI to know that. But that's something that an attorney in that area would know. They would know what the judges have said. Hey, we're going to try out this new form and we're going to see how it goes. And if it goes well, then we're going to change our local rules. AI would never do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent example. And too, kind of tying into this, the human nuance, the human element that we're talking about, with AI, is there attorney-client privilege?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And attorney-client privilege, what that means is anything that you discuss with your attorney, or even if it's an attorney you're consulting with. So not an attorney that you've hired, but an attorney that you've come in to have a consultation with to talk about the case to see if you want to hire that person. That attorney also is bound by the same attorney-client privilege that an attorney you hire has. And what that means is that whatever you tell your attorney, they cannot disclose to anybody else. And so,
but I can subpoena a search history.
Absolutely.
Even from ChatGPT?
That's right. You can subpoena search history from ChatGPT. And more than that, if you type something into a computer, a lot of times people's computer, a lot of times people's computer login information is something that their spouse knows to log into and have access to without even knowing it. We hear all kinds of stories about people with Apple accounts where they think that what they're typing into their phone is secret and secure, but it's popping up on an iPad that the kids use.
Yeah, and even not if that person's spouse, at the end of the day, you could be typing in very sensitive, very personal information into a public, yes, it's you in a chat box with a version of AI, but at the end of the day, it's only as secure as that system is. And whether it's discoverable, whether it's leaked, it is not the same thing as coming in and speaking in a secure setting with an attorney bound by attorney-client privilege that has a code of ethics that we must administer our practice by. That's not something that AI is going to be aware of, right?
That's right. Absolutely. And attorneys take that attorney-client privilege extremely seriously. We can lose our license if we violate it. Right. So your secrets are very secure with us.
And so generally, the sentiment that we want to impart on everyone in this video is use all the resources at your disposal. Yes, but be very discerning with what you decide to give that authority to. If it's Google, if it's AI, if it's your friend that went through a similar experience, or if it's an attorney in this area, in the courthouse, in front of the judge that your case is going to be in front of, you got to be able to weigh those pieces of information appropriately. And so I think at the end of the day, what we really want to encourage everyone to do is, even if it's just to ask questions, meet with an attorney. Meet with an attorney and make sure you have all of the information in front of you, all of your questions answered. And that's really going to be the best way that anyone can prepare for any kind of case, particularly a divorce or a custody suit.
Absolutely. And how many times do you put something into a search engine, an AI search engine, and it spits out a picture or an answer that looks mostly right, but maybe there's an extra arm and some
Yeah.
A lot of times legal advice is the same way. It looks like it could be right, but unless you know exactly what the law says, you won't realize that it's actually wrong.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point.
Hey, we appreciate you watching that video. If you have other questions about other legal topics, check out our website, johnsonfirmla.com, or our YouTube page. We put out material all of the time in the areas of family law, personal injury, and criminal defense. We really appreciate you checking us out. Thanks so much.